If you stand on the shoulder of Pacific Coast Highway at Carbon Beach in Malibu and look toward the water, you will see a row of houses that breaks a rule most people never think about. These houses sell for $40 million. Some have sold for more than $100 million. Mark Andreessen reportedly paid around $177 million for a compound here in 2021. 3 years later, a property up the coast at Paradise Cove sold for $210 million, the most expensive home sale in California history. But what makes these houses shocking isn't the price, it's the ground. Walk around to the ocean side at high tide, and you will see what they are actually standing on. Wooden pilings, concrete pads, rock piles stacked by hand. And behind all of it, a beach that, on some stretches of this coast, has been retreating at roughly 2 feet per year for decades. At Broad Beach, a few miles west, the waterline moved 65 feet landward between 1974 and the year 2000. 65 feet. Most of these lots are not much deeper than that. This is not a clifftop village in Europe with 1,000 years of history. This is a 21-mile strip of sand and crumbling shale, developed almost entirely in the last 70 years, and it is the most expensive residential coastline on the planet. When Carbon Beach earned its nickname, Billionaire's Beach, it was treated as the ultimate trophy. David Geffen, Larry Ellison, Paul Allen, roughly 70 lots, shoulder to shoulder, with the Pacific as a backyard. Buyers were not purchasing square footage. They were purchasing something that could not be manufactured, a private slice of an ocean view, with the sand as the fence. The assumption baked into every one of those prices was simple. The beach would always be there. But today, the beach is not always there. Along parts of Malibu, the sand disappears for months at a time, and the waves break directly against the rock walls under the decks. Homeowners on Broad Beach have agreed to spend $31 million of their own money trucking in sand just to keep the ocean off their foundations. A neighborhood on the hill above the highway has been sliding toward the sea since 1983, and residents still pay an annual assessment to keep it from moving. In January 2025, a wildfire burned more than 700 homes in Malibu, many of them on the beach. And the single most important fact hanging over all of it is this. Under California law, most of these owners have no right to build a seawall to protect themselves. It turns out that when you build $40 million houses on a moving strip of sand, the Pacific Ocean does not care how much you paid. This is the story of Malibu, the most expensive, most exclusive, and most precarious coastline in America, and why the people who own it can't do anything about it. Before we get into how Malibu got here, a quick question for you. If you enjoy deep dives into engineering failures, doomed mega projects, and the dark side of luxury real estate, hit that subscribe button right now. It costs you nothing. It helps the channel grow, and it means you won't miss the next video. Now, let's get into it. To understand why Malibu is in trouble, you first have to understand how it was built, and more importantly, when. For most of its history, this coast was one enormous private ranch, and the family that owned it fought for decades to keep a public road out. They lost. The Coast Highway opened along the shore in the late 1920s, and everything else followed. The real building boom came after the Second World War. Lots were carved out along the sand at Carbon Beach, Broad Beach, and Malibu Road, and up on the bluffs in neighborhoods like Big Rock Mesa. Houses went up on wooden pilings driven into the beach. Septic tanks went into the ground because there were no sewers. When Los Angeles County allowed Big Rock Mesa to be developed in 1962, it did not require a sewer system. Every home would dispose of its wastewater straight into the hillside. None of this seemed reckless at the time, and here's the reason why. The decades when Malibu was built happened to be unusually calm. Storms were quiet. The beaches were wide. Nobody building a house in 1955 had any reason to believe the sand in front of it was temporary. Then, in 1976, California passed the Coastal Act, creating the California Coastal Commission. The law took effect on January 1st, 1977. Keep that date in your head. It is going to matter more than any other date in this story. Because right after that, the weather changed. Beginning in the late 1970s, El Niño patterns brought heavier, more violent storms to Southern California. And those storms hit a coast that had already been quietly sabotaged. Here's how a beach actually works. A beach is not a fixed object. It is a river of sand. Sediment washes out of creeks and canyons, crumbles off the bluffs, and drifts along the shore with the current. As long as new sand keeps arriving, the beach holds its position. Cut off the supply, and the beach starts to shrink. Malibu cut off the supply. Every house built on the sand, every driveway, every retaining wall, sealed up a piece of the bluff that used to feed the beach. By 1996, shoreline armoring had altered roughly half of Malibu's coast. The homeowners built walls to protect their houses from erosion, and the walls accelerated the erosion. That is not a coincidence. It is physics. When a wave hits a sloping beach, the sand absorbs the energy. When a wave hits a vertical wall, the energy reflects straight back out, scouring away the sand at the base. A seawall protects the house behind it by eating the beach in front of it. Scientists call what happens next coastal squeeze. The ocean pushes in from one side, the walls block retreat from the other, and the beach is pinched between them until it is squeezed out of existence. Now add the second problem. The bluffs above the highway are not solid rock. They are layers of weak marine shale and sandstone, tilted toward the ocean, with ancient landslide surfaces running through them. What keeps a slope like that in place is friction. What destroys that friction is water. Remember those septic tanks? Hundreds of homes, each one pumping wastewater into the ground, year after year, plus irrigation for lawns and gardens. The water table under Big Rock Mesa rose. The old slide plane got slippery. And on top of everything, the ocean itself is rising. A study from the United States Geological Survey has warned that without intervention, as much as 2/3 of Southern California's beaches could be gone by the end of this century. The first bill came due in 1983. That year, after a wet winter, Big Rock Mesa began to move. Not in a single dramatic collapse. It crept. Foundations cracked. Driveways split. Doors stopped closing. Pipes sheared off underground. This was a neighborhood of around 280 homes, some with the best ocean views in Los Angeles County, and the hill underneath all of them was sliding toward the highway. Some homes were destroyed outright. Most were damaged too badly to live in safely. The cause, according to the engineers who studied it, was groundwater. Decades of septic discharge and irrigation had saturated the slope. The fix was brutally simple and endless. Pump the water out. In December 1983, the county formed an improvement district with authority to spend $4.8 million, which worked out to an assessment of $17,606 for each homeowner. On top of the damage, on top of the lawsuits against insurers in the county. And here's the part almost nobody outside Malibu knows. It never ended. The Big Rock Mesa Landslide Maintenance District still exists today. The city of Malibu publishes an annual geological report for it every single year. The pumps are still running. Residents are still paying. The hill was never fixed. It was only paused. That is what living on this coast means. Not one disaster, a permanent subscription. The second front opened on the sand. Broad Beach was once exactly what its name promised. A wide, mile-long strip of sand and dunes lined with the homes of Hollywood's biggest names. Through the 1980s and 90s, the homeowners treated it as their own, posting no trespassing signs and hiring private security to patrol the sand on all-terrain vehicles. Meanwhile, the beach was vanishing under their feet. 2 feet a year, 65 feet in 26 years. In 2010, a winter storm took what was left of the sand and seriously damaged 2 houses. Under an emergency permit, the homeowner spent $4 million building a rock revetment, a 36,000-ton wall of boulders, running almost the full length of the beach. It stopped the waves from reaching the houses. It also finished off the beach. Waves reflecting off the rocks pulled the remaining sand out to sea, and the swim club next door lost 20 to 40 feet of beach width in a single year. So the homeowners proposed something no one in California had ever attempted. 121 property owners formed a district and offered to buy themselves a new beach. The first plan, dredging sand from near Manhattan Beach, collapsed when Manhattan Beach objected. Nobody wants their sand taken by billionaires. By 2014, they had already spent $7 million just on permits and studies, without a single grain of sand delivered. In October 2015, the Coastal Commission finally approved it by a vote of 7-5. 300,000 cubic yards of sand every 5 years, at a total cost of $31 million, paid entirely by the residents, who also agreed to abandon their septic tanks and never again block the public from the beach. One of the residents summed it up bluntly. Eventually, Mother Nature will come by and take the sand back. $31 million for a beach with an expiration date. But for most Malibu homeowners, Broad Beach is the lucky case, because most of them will never be allowed to build the wall in the first place. Section 3235 of the California Coastal Act says seawalls shall be permitted when required to protect existing structures in danger from erosion. For decades, homeowners read that the way anyone would. If your house exists and it is in danger, you can protect it. The Coastal Commission reads it differently. In its view, existing structures means structures that existed on January 1st, 1977, the day the Coastal Act took effect. If your house was built after that date, the law does not guarantee you a seawall. And when the Commission approves new coastal construction today, it typically requires the owner to sign away the right to ever armor the property. In December 2024, a California appeals court sided with the Commission. The case involved a condominium complex built in 1984 that wanted a 257-foot seawall. The Commission allowed 50 feet to protect a neighboring building from 1972 and a public trail. The 1984 condos got nothing. The court agreed. The state Supreme Court declined to hear the appeal. Think about what that means on a coast where the most expensive houses are also the newest. A beach cottage from 1965, torn down and replaced with a $40 million glass box in 2019, is no longer an existing structure. There is even a trap for people who try to keep the old house on paper, remodel more than 50% of a major structural element, and the Commission may treat your house as new construction, waiver included. In Laguna Beach, a couple rebuilt their beachfront home beyond what their permits allowed and put up an 11-foot-tall, 80-foot-long seawall. The house's value jumped from $14 million to $25 million. The Commission fined them $1 million and ordered the wall torn down within 60 days. So a Malibu owner looking at waves under the deck has 3 choices. Pay for sand that will wash away. Pay lawyers to fight an agency that has just won in court. Or watch. And the fight isn't just about erosion. It is about who the beach belongs to. Under California law, everything seaward of the mean high tide line is public. That line is not fixed. It moves with the beach. And when the beach retreats, the public boundary moves landward with it, straight into what the homeowner thought was a private yard. That is why Malibu's richest residents spent years fighting public access. David Geffen battled for years over a public walkway beside his compound and lost in 2005. When U2's guitarist, The Edge, proposed 5 mansions on a Malibu ridge. The commission rejected the project, its executive director calling it one of the 3 worst projects he had seen in 38 years. Fame and money did not move the vote. The owners had money. The state had the law. And for 40 years, the two sides fought to a standstill over a strip of sand that was shrinking the entire time. Then, in January 2025, the standstill ended. On January 7th, the Palisades fire, driven by hurricane-force winds, tore west along the coast into Malibu. When it was over, more than 700 homes in the city were destroyed, including long stretches of beachfront along Pacific Coast Highway. Houses that had stood on the sand since the 1950s were reduced to charred pilings. And that is when the owners learned what rebuilding on this coast actually requires now. On paper, the city moved fast. A streamlined rebuild permit, approved by the Coastal Commission in April, fees waived. A green light for like rebuilds. In practice, beachfront owners hit a wall. Every beachfront rebuild now needs a coastal engineering report. Existing seawalls must be replaced unless an engineer certifies they will hold. Timber pilings, the thing most of these houses stood on, are no longer allowed. Homes must be raised to meet flood elevations that assume a higher ocean. More than a year after the fire, the city had issued far fewer rebuild permits than anyone expected, and hundreds of families were still waiting. Some were not sure they wanted to come back. One family that lost a 2-bedroom house their parents bought in the 1960s split down the middle. One sister wanted to rebuild, the other, citing the rising ocean, did not. Could the city buy out lots like theirs and let the coast retreat? The city's entire annual revenue was about $86 million, less than the price of some of the houses. The fire did not just destroy houses. It reset the clock. And the clock now reads 2026, not 1977. And even the one road connecting these houses to the world is failing. Pacific Coast Highway closes whenever it rains hard, with mudslides shutting it down repeatedly in 2024 alone. A sliding hill, a vanishing beach, and a road that closes in the rain. So, what happens now? What do you do with a $40 million house that the state will not let you protect? The answer, increasingly, is that you sell to someone who has not read the geology reports. Carbon Beach remains one of the thinnest markets in Southern California. And as of this year, the inventory includes burned lots from the fire. Buyers are now advised to hire a coastal land use attorney before signing anything, to check whether the house is from before or after 1977, whether a past remodel crossed the 50% line, and whether a waiver is already recorded against the property. Insurance is harder to get and more expensive every year. The trophies have become liabilities with ocean views, and every owner on the sand is quietly hoping the next buyer arrives before the next storm. The tragedy of Malibu is that it did not have to be this way. The science of this coast is not a mystery, and we know how to build on a coast that moves. You set houses back from the edge. You let beaches retreat. You treat the shoreline as a geological feature instead of a property line. Malibu did the opposite at nearly every decision point. It built on the sand during a calm it mistook for permanence. It let a hillside neighborhood flush its wastewater into its own foundation. It armored half the coast and starved the beach that was protecting it. Then, when the ocean came for the houses, the owners discovered that the law written to protect the coast had quietly expired their right to protect themselves on the first day of 1977. The homeowners blame the commission for refusing the walls. The commission blames the walls for killing the beach. The public blames the billionaires for blocking the sand. The billionaires blame the public for blocking the rescue. Everybody is right, and none of it stops the water. You can pay $210 million for a house on this coast. You can hire the best coastal engineers in the world. You can truck in 300,000 cubic yards of sand every 5 years. But you cannot bribe the tide. You cannot negotiate with a landslide. And when you build a row of glass mansions on a moving strip of sand, beneath a hill lubricated by its own sewage, along a highway that closes in the rain. Eventually, the geology catches up with you. And the most unsettling part? The ocean is only getting started. If the beach is already gone for months of the year, the hill is already on life support, and the state has already won in court. What does this coast look like in 30 years? What happens when the sand program runs out and the homeowners are asked to pay for the next decade and the next? What happens when the next big El Nino winter hits seawalls that no longer have a beach in front of them? Nobody knows. And right now, the people with the most money in the world are trying to figure out whether to stay and find out. So what do you think should happen to Malibu? Should the state let these owners build whatever walls it takes to save their homes, even if it means the public beach disappears? Or did they get exactly what they paid for when they bought $40 million houses on a beach that was already retreating? Let me know in the comments below.